The sun had barely risen over Earth when the sky was suddenly torn apart by flashes of light, as though the heavens themselves were being ripped open. The emergency alarms blared across major cities, echoing through the streets, sending citizens into a panic. Ships, unlike anything humanity had ever seen, descended upon Earth with an unnerving speed. They were sleek, metallic, and terrifying, an alien fleet from the farthest reaches of space. As the ship settled into the atmosphere, the ground trembled beneath their weight. A dark shadow loomed over the Earth, and in that moment, it became clear, something unimaginable was happening. Among the chaos, Elara, one of Earth's brightest young minds, was in her lab, working tirelessly on her latest project, a revolutionary breakthrough in quantum mechanics. Elara, at just 24, had already become a legend in the scientific community. Her theories on gravity manipulation and quantum computing had the potential to change everything. But her work wasn't just groundbreaking, it was dangerous. In the wrong hands, it could spell disaster. No one could have predicted that those wrong hands would belong to the aliens themselves. As Elara was in the middle of her research, the alien forces executed a sudden and brutal strike. They arrived with military precision, deploying forces that overwhelmed Earth's defenses. In mere hours, major government and military systems were compromised. Satellites went dark. Cities were thrown into chaos. And amidst the chaos, Elara found herself the target of a ruthless alien faction. Her lab was invaded by a squad of masked, armed soldiers. The lights flickered as they breached the building's security systems. Elara's heart raced as she struggled to comprehend what was happening. She had heard rumors of alien encounters, but she never imagined they would target her, specifically. They had been watching her for months, studying her work from afar, waiting for the right moment to strike. Without warning, the aliens captured her. Their leader, a towering figure with cold, calculating eyes, approached her and spoke in a language that sounded alien, but somehow familiar. As Elara was pulled from the wreckage of her lab, she fought back with every ounce of her strength. But it was no use. The aliens were too advanced, too powerful. They had technology that made Earth's finest military weapons look like children's toys. As she was dragged onto their ship, her thoughts raced. Why her? What did they want with her? She had no answers. She could only hope that someone, anyone, was going to come for her. She had to warn Earth, to stop whatever it was that they were planning. But as the ship's ramp sealed behind her, her fate seemed sealed, too. Back on Earth, panic had set in. Governments scrambled to understand what was happening. The media was filled with alarming images of alien ships hovering above major cities. The world's leaders were meeting urgently in a desperate attempt to devise a plan. But even as the chaos spread, a far darker realization took hold. This wasn't just a random attack. It was a calculated move. The aliens weren't here to destroy humanity, they were here for something far more sinister. Elara's kidnapping was the first clue. High-ranking officials began piecing together fragments of information. The aliens had not only attacked Earth, but they had taken a key figure, Elara, the woman who held the key to humanity's future. Her research into gravity manipulation could alter the course of the war, if the wrong hands controlled it. And these aliens, whoever they were certainly the wrong hands. In the darkened halls of the United Nations Emergency Chamber, a tense conversation unfolded. The Secretary General, a seasoned diplomat, stared grimly at the holographic map of the alien fleet above Earth. "This isn't just an invasion," he muttered, his voice low. "It's a kidnapping. They took Elara for a reason." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If Elara's work fell into the hands of these invaders, humanity would be at their mercy. The aliens could control gravity, manipulate spacetime, and potentially wield unimaginable power. Earth was facing a crisis that no one could have foreseen, and the governments were scrambling to respond. The real question was, what did the aliens want with her research? Could they already be using her mind to advance their own weapons systems? Were they planning to use her to build an unstoppable army? The thought alone made every leader in that room shudder. They had no answers, only more questions. As the news spread, the world began to brace for war. The realization dawned that this was no longer about defending borders or resources. It was about survival. The kidnapping of Alara marked the beginning of a dark new chapter for humanity. The world had to act, and fast. Meanwhile, on the alien flagship, Alara was confined to a cold, metallic cell. Her captors were relentless in their attempts to break her will. They needed her to help them, needed her brilliant mind to help them control the very fabric of space. But despite their attempts, Alara refused to speak. She refused to give in. It wasn't fear that drove her resolve, but something deeper, a determination to protect her world. She knew that if she gave in to them, if she allowed them to use her knowledge, the consequences would be catastrophic. She couldn't let that happen. The stakes were too high. As the days dragged on, Alara's isolation grew unbearable. Yet, in the silence, her mind raced. There had to be a way out. She couldn't let them use her research to destroy Earth. She had to find a way to fight back. But first, she had to understand her captors. Who were they? What did they want from her? And most importantly, how could she turn the tables on them? Back on Earth, time was running out. Governments were pulling their resources together, but without Alara, they were flying blind. The military was working around the clock, trying to piece together any information they could about the aliens' technology. But they couldn't even begin to understand what they were up against. The aliens had advanced far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. And yet, humanity was not without hope. Alara's kidnapping was a spark, one that would ignite the fury of a species fighting for its survival. The aliens may have taken Alara, but they had underestimated the one thing they couldn't predict, the sheer determination of humanity. Earth would fight back, and it would not be easily defeated. The suspense of the story continues to build, as Alara's fate remains uncertain, and Earth prepares for the storm to come. The kidnapping was just the beginning, an ominous first move in a battle that would shape the future of the planet. Would Earth's leaders be able to rally the planet's defenses in time? Would they be able to rescue Alara and stop the alien invasion? The clock was ticking, and the world was about to change forever. The world was reeling from the shock of Alara's kidnapping. The news spread across Earth like wildfire, leaving people paralyzed with fear and uncertainty. No one knew how to fight back against an enemy so advanced, so ruthless. But as the situation grew direr, humanity's survival instincts kicked in. The United Nations convened in an emergency summit, and after hours of frantic discussions, they came to a grim conclusion: there was no time left for diplomacy. The alien forces were not here to negotiate. They had come to take what they wanted, and they had the power to do it. Earth needed to strike back, immediately. To face the alien threat, the world's leaders decided to launch a covert military operation. It was called Operation Retribution. The plan was simple: hunt down every alien fleet, destroy them one by one, and reclaim Alara before she could be forced to help the invaders. But the mission was far from easy. The alien forces were far more advanced than anything humanity had ever encountered, and their ships, weapons, and technology were beyond anything Earth's best minds could imagine. At the helm of Operation Retribution was Captain Marcus Hayes, a seasoned military strategist with a reputation for his calm under pressure. He had been through wars, seen countless battles, but nothing could have prepared him for this. With the fate of humanity in his hands, he was determined to lead his team to victory, no matter the cost. Captain Hayes was joined by Lieutenant Mira, a brilliant tactical officer known for her ability to think several steps ahead. She had already analyzed the alien fleet's movements and pinpointed their strongholds. The most important of these was a heavily fortified base on the dark side of the moon. The mission was clear: infiltrate the base, destroy their resources, and take down their command structure. It was a high-risk operation, but they couldn't afford to wait any longer. The task force assembled in secrecy. Earth's best soldiers, engineers, and scientists worked together, preparing for the upcoming battle. They used every technological advancement at their disposal, cloaking devices that made their ships invisible to alien sensors, AI-driven drones that would provide intelligence and strike with pinpoint accuracy, and advanced weaponry designed to pierce even the toughest alien armor. The mission began at dawn. The task force, cloaked and undetected, launched from Earth's military base, heading toward the moon. As their ship sliced through the atmosphere, a sense of tension gripped the crew. The soldiers aboard knew that they were the first line of defense for humanity. Failure was not an option. Captain Hayes stood in the command center of the lead ship, staring out into the vastness of space. His mind was focused, calculating every move. "Remember," he said to his crew, "we are not just fighting for victory. We are fighting for our survival. Stay sharp, and we'll get Alara back." The team navigated through the darkness of space, cloaked from the alien sensors. The base loomed ahead, a massive structure covered in layers of advanced shielding. As they neared the moon's surface, Captain Hayes gave the order for their AI-driven drones to deploy. These drones, small and fast, would provide reconnaissance and help map out the enemy's defenses. The drones relayed back information to the task force, revealing an unexpected truth: the base was heavily guarded, but the aliens were not expecting an attack. This was humanity's chance. The task force made its final approach, carefully avoiding detection. They landed on the far side of the base, far from the alien patrols. The soldiers, clad in advanced tactical gear, moved quickly and silently toward their objective. Their weapons hummed softly in the cold, silent expanse. The mission was going smoothly, but Captain Hayes knew it wouldn't stay that way. The aliens were bound to detect them soon. As they neared the heart of the base, the plan shifted into high gear. The AI drones had already started taking out the base's outer defenses, creating a hole in the enemy's armor. It was time for the humans to make their move. But as they advanced, things quickly took a turn for the worse. The alien forces had begun to react, and in mere seconds, the soldiers found themselves in the middle of a fierce firefight. Plasma bolts flew past, and the air was filled with the sound of explosions and gunfire. The human soldiers fought bravely, using their superior tactics and technology to hold their ground. In the midst of the chaos, Sergeant Bonner, a seasoned soldier known for his courage and loyalty, was hit. A plasma round tore through his armor, leaving a gaping wound on his side. Bonner collapsed, his screams muffled by the noise of the ongoing battle. Captain Hayes rushed to his side, pulling him into cover behind a nearby wreckage. "Stay with me, Bonner," Captain Hayes shouted, trying to staunch the bleeding. But it was clear that the soldier's injuries were severe. Bonner's face, usually full of determination, was now pale. His breaths came in shallow gasps. Despite his pain, he managed to smile weakly at his commander. "I've got your back, sir," Bonner whispered, his voice strained. "I knew the risks. But I'll fight for Earth till my last breath." Captain Hayes clenched his fists, a deep sense of sorrow washing over him. He knew this wasn't just a mission, it was personal now. Bonner was more than just a soldier, he was family. And this wasn't how it was supposed to end. But despite the pain, Captain Hayes knew they couldn't stop. Earth needed them. And they needed Bonner's sacrifice to not be in vain. With Bonner being carried to safety, the rest of the team pressed on. The battle raged on for hours, but eventually, humanity's superior technology began to turn the tide. The AI drones took out more of the alien defenses, and the human soldiers breached the base's inner sanctum. They planted explosives at key points, and the base began to crumble. The aliens tried to fight back, but their defenses were overwhelmed. In the end, the mission succeeded, but it was bittersweet. Bonner, the brave soldier who had fought with everything he had, didn't make it. His death, while tragic, served as a powerful reminder of the cost of war. It was a blow to the heart of the task force, but it only strengthened their resolve. They had avenged his sacrifice, but they still had a long way to go. The battle for humanity's survival was far from over. As the task force made their way back to Earth, Captain Hayes couldn't help but feel the weight of their mission. The alien forces had been struck a significant blow, but there was still so much they didn't know. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The loss of Bonner, and the countless others who would follow, was a reminder that every victory would come at a cost. But as long as humanity had soldiers like Bonner and leaders like Captain Hayes, they would never give up. The fight had only just begun. And they would not stop until they had taken back what was theirs. The victory of the human forces over the alien base had come at a great cost, but it had proven something to the invaders: humanity wasn't going down without a fight. Earth's soldiers had shown the strength, courage, and ingenuity to strike at the heart of the alien war machine, and they had taken down a formidable base. But the aliens, driven by rage and a thirst for revenge, were only getting stronger. The situation on Earth had become more dire with each passing day. News of the battle spread around the world, and while humanity had celebrated its victory, the aliens were far from finished. They had underestimated human resolve, and now they were more determined than ever to crush this rebellion. Elara, once a brilliant scientist, had now become something entirely different. After her capture, the aliens had twisted her mind, turning her into their weapon of mass destruction. Her mind, once a peaceful force of discovery, was now the key to controlling the alien machines of war. They implanted a series of neural interfaces in her brain, giving her the ability to directly command the alien war machines. Elara had become the puppet of her captors, though fragments of her true self still fought to break free. The very thought of her being used as a weapon was a constant source of anguish for her. But for now, the aliens had complete control. Captain Marcus Hayes and his team were still reeling from the loss of Sergeant Bonner. Bonner's death had hit them hard, but it also steeled their resolve. They could not afford to mourn for too long. The war was escalating, and every moment counted. They knew that they were facing an enemy unlike any humanity had encountered before, an enemy with technology that could warp the very fabric of reality. To counter this, the Earth's scientists worked around the clock, and they soon discovered something that could potentially turn the tide of the war: the gravity manipulation device. This revolutionary technology, developed by Elara herself before her capture, had the potential to disrupt the gravitational fields of the alien ships, rendering them immobile and vulnerable to attack. This device would give humanity a fighting chance, but it was still in its early stages, and its use was untested in battle. The gravity manipulation technology could be the key to stopping the alien ships, but there was one massive obstacle. The aliens were aware of the threat, and they would stop at nothing to prevent its deployment. They knew that if Earth managed to get the device working, they would lose the advantage they had gained over the years. And so, the alien forces launched an all-out offensive to destroy Earth's research facilities and neutralize the technology before it could be used. In a desperate bid to protect the device, Captain Hayes and his team were tasked with transporting it to a secure location. Their mission was clear: get the technology to the city of New York, where humanity's best engineers and scientists were preparing to finalize the device's activation. But the aliens were already on the move, and they were determined to stop humanity at any cost. The first wave of alien ships arrived in Earth's orbit, their sleek, deadly silhouettes cutting through the stars like vultures circling their prey. The Earth's defenses were still recovering from the last battle, and there wasn't enough time to prepare for what was coming. The aliens launched a massive orbital bombardment, turning cities to rubble and sending shockwaves across the globe. Lasers rained down from the skies, striking the Earth with devastating force. Buildings crumbled, and entire city blocks were wiped off the map in an instant. The people of Earth watched in horror as the skies burned with alien destruction. Captain Hayes and his team watched from the command center as the devastation unfolded. The city of Paris was the first to fall, its once proud landmarks reduced to smoldering ruins. But the attack wasn't over yet. The aliens were relentless. They were targeting every major city, every critical military installation, and every research facility that could contribute to the resistance. They would leave no stone unturned. In the midst of this chaos, Captain Hayes issued the order for Operation Eclipse, a last-ditch effort to transport the gravity manipulation device to New York. Time was running out. The alien forces were closing in, and Earth had no more time to waste. The team, accompanied by a squad of elite soldiers, made their way to the transport ship that would carry them through the war-torn skies. The ship was equipped with the latest cloaking technology, designed to keep them hidden from the aliens. But with the orbital bombardment destroying everything in sight, it was only a matter of time before they were detected. As the ship soared into the skies, Captain Hayes stared out of the window, watching the destruction unfold below. The sight was enough to chill anyone's bones. Entire cities were being obliterated in real time, and the smell of burning cities filled the air. But there was no time to dwell on the devastation. The mission was too important. If they failed, humanity would be lost. The ship encountered its first resistance within minutes. Alien drones, dispatched from their motherships, appeared on the radar. These sleek, robotic fighters had been designed for precision, and they quickly closed in on the human ship. Captain Hayes gave the order to deploy their own drones, AI-driven fighters that had been specifically designed to counter these alien machines. The battle in the skies was intense. The drones swarmed around each other, firing lasers and missiles, as the ships darted through the sky, trying to outmaneuver each other. The cloaking devices worked to their advantage, making it hard for the aliens to pinpoint their location, but the drones were getting closer and closer. Every time a human drone was destroyed, the crew's morale took a hit. They knew that their survival depended on these machines. Then, the battle took a deadly turn. The ship's cloaking device flickered, and for just a moment, they became visible to the aliens. It was enough time for an alien drone to lock onto them. A series of plasma missiles streaked toward the transport ship. The crew scrambled to activate the ship's shields, but it was too late. The missiles hit, and the ship lurched violently. Sparks flew as systems failed, and the crew was thrown into chaos. "Hold on!" Captain Hayes shouted, gripping the controls with white-knuckled determination. The ship was spiraling out of control, and they were heading straight for Earth's surface. The AI-driven drones quickly moved in to engage the aliens, buying the ship precious moments to stabilize itself. With the last of their strength, the crew managed to regain control of the ship, but they had lost precious time. The enemy was closing in. The battle was far from over, but the stakes had never been higher. Earth's fate now rested in their hands. In the distance, the team saw New York's skyline rising against the horizon. The city that had once been a symbol of hope was now a battlefield, with alien ships hovering above it. The gravity manipulation device was their final chance. As they descended toward the city, the sky erupted with more explosions. The aliens were everywhere. The battle for Earth had escalated into an all-out war, and there was no turning back now. The final clash was imminent, and Captain Hayes knew this might be the last chance to save humanity. It wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was a fight for hope. The gravity manipulation device could change everything, but it would require more than just technology. It would take everything they had: courage, strength, and sacrifice. This was the final push. The war had escalated, and the fate of Earth hung in the balance. With the alien forces closing in, Captain Hayes and his team had one mission: fight until the end. As the battle raged on around them, the team's resolve was unbreakable. They would not allow Earth to fall. Not without a fight, the war had reached a critical point. Humanity's survival rested on the shoulders of Captain Marcus Hayes and his team. They had fought tooth and nail to reach this stage, to even stand a chance against the alien invaders. The gravity manipulation device, humanity's hope for victory, had been successfully transported to New York, but the battle was far from over. Now, the only thing that remained was the destruction of the alien flagship, the heart of their war machine. If they could cripple it, the aliens would have no choice but to retreat. But getting there wouldn't be easy. The plan was simple but incredibly dangerous. Captain Hayes and his elite team would infiltrate the alien flagship, destroy their central control systems, and free Alara from their grasp. She had become the most crucial asset to the enemy, and once freed, they could stop the aliens from using her as a weapon. But no one could have predicted just how complicated and painful this mission would become. As the team boarded the stealth ship that would carry them through the heart of the alien fleet, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. They had trained for this moment. They had faced the impossible before and survived. But now, they were about to enter the heart of the enemy's territory. They knew this could be their final mission, but they were ready to sacrifice everything for the greater good of Earth. The ship glided silently through the void of space, invisible to the alien fleet thanks to the advanced cloaking technology. Every crew member's eyes were focused on their target, the massive alien flagship, a terrifying behemoth of technology and destruction. Its dark metallic surface shimmered against the stars, and every weapon it carried could wipe out entire fleets in seconds. As they neared their destination, Captain Hayes looked around at his team. He saw the determination in their eyes, the same courage that had driven them from the very beginning. They had lost friends, family, and comrades along the way, but they were still here. They were still fighting. "Prepare for entry," Marcus ordered, his voice steady despite the weight of the mission. "This is it. Stick to the plan. We get in, we get Alara, and we destroy their weapons. No room for error." His team nodded in unison, checking their gear and weapons. There was no turning back now. The ship docked silently with the alien flagship, and the team slipped inside, moving swiftly through the dark corridors. They had no time to waste. Every moment spent in enemy territory increased their risk of being discovered. The team split up, each member heading to a different part of the ship to disable the enemy's systems. Captain Hayes and his closest soldiers moved toward the main control room, the heart of the flagship. They knew that if they could destroy the core systems, the entire ship would collapse. But as they approached the control room, something felt off. There was no resistance, no guards. It was too quiet. Marcus's instincts kicked in. Something was wrong. Suddenly, the doors to the control room burst open, and standing in the center of the room was Lieutenant Derek, Marcus's most trusted soldier. But there was something different about him. His eyes, once full of loyalty, were now cold and empty. "You?" Marcus gasped, his voice filled with disbelief. Derek, who had been with him through every battle, every life-or-death situation, was now standing before him as an enemy. The betrayal was as sharp as a knife. It cut through the very core of Marcus's soul. "I'm sorry, Marcus," Derek said, his voice devoid of emotion. "I didn't want it to come to this. But Earth is not worth saving. The aliens, they promised me more. Power. A future beyond anything we could have ever imagined. And you're in the way." The shock of Derek's betrayal hit Marcus like a freight train. He couldn't believe it. Derek had been like a brother to him. They had shared stories, fought side by side, and now this. How could this have happened? How could someone he trusted so deeply turn against him so easily? "Derek, no," Marcus whispered, his heart heavy with the weight of the betrayal. "We've been through so much together. You can't just turn your back on everything we've fought for. The aliens are not the future. They're here to destroy us, to enslave us. You can't really believe that's the way forward." Derek's expression softened for a moment, a flicker of regret crossing his face. But it was brief. The coldness returned, and he stepped back, signaling to the alien forces hidden in the shadows. "Enough talk, Marcus. I've made my choice," Derek said. "It's time for you to make yours." Before Marcus could react, alien soldiers flooded into the room, surrounding the team. The trap had been set, and they had walked straight into it. There was no way out now. The gunfire was deafening as the team fought back with everything they had. But the odds were stacked against them. The alien soldiers were stronger, faster, and better equipped. For a moment, it seemed like all hope was lost. Captain Hayes could feel the weight of the situation. He was staring at his trusted lieutenant, the man who had betrayed him. But his mind was also filled with the memory of Sergeant Bonner, the brave soldier who had sacrificed his life in the previous battle. Bonner's face flashed in his mind, reminding him of what they were fighting for. As the battle raged on, Marcus knew what he had to do. He couldn't let Derek win. He couldn't let the aliens have Earth. The gravity manipulation device was still the key to victory, and they had to finish the mission. In a moment of intense clarity, Marcus charged forward, knocking aside an alien soldier and reaching Derek. The two former allies clashed in a brutal fight, each one fueled by their own beliefs. Marcus fought with everything he had, each strike filled with the pain of betrayal. Derek fought back with ruthless efficiency, his movements cold and calculated. As they struggled, Marcus's mind raced. He had to end this. He had to stop Derek, not just for the mission, but for his fallen comrades, for Bonner, for Earth. With a final, desperate move, Marcus disarmed Derek, sending him crashing to the ground. But the fight wasn't over. Marcus looked at his former lieutenant one last time, his heart heavy with grief. "I'm sorry, Derek," Marcus said, his voice low and regretful. "But you've made your choice." Derek's eyes narrowed in defiance. "You'll regret this, Marcus. You'll all regret it." With Derek incapacitated, Marcus gave the order to destroy the alien weapon. The team worked quickly, planting explosives around the control systems, but the clock was ticking. Elara was still trapped, and the alien flagship was on the verge of launching a counterattack. They found Elara, deep within the heart of the ship, surrounded by alien guards. She looked different. Her once brilliant eyes were now clouded with the effects of her captivity. But despite everything, there was still a spark of the Elara they had known. "Captain," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I never wanted this. I never wanted to be their weapon." Marcus approached her slowly, his heart aching. He had to save her, to free her from the alien's grasp. He reached out and carefully disconnected the neural interfaces that had controlled her mind, releasing her from the alien influence. For a moment, Elara seemed disoriented, but then, recognition flashed in her eyes. "Marcus. You found me," she said, her voice filled with relief. But there was no time to celebrate. The countdown had already begun. The alien flagship was on its last legs, but it was still capable of launching a devastating attack. Marcus knew this would be the final push. The device had to be destroyed, and Elara had to be freed. With Elara's help, they successfully destroyed the alien weapon, sending shockwaves through the flagship. The ship began to fall apart, and the team rushed to escape. The explosion that followed was catastrophic, but it meant one thing: humanity had taken a massive step toward victory. As the ship crumbled around them, Captain Marcus Hayes glanced back at the destruction they had caused. It was a bittersweet victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. He had lost friends. He had lost allies. And he had watched betrayal unfold before his eyes. But in the end, they had done it. The war wasn't over, but they had struck a critical blow against the alien invaders. And with Elara free, there was still hope. The human forces were now operating at full strength. The war against the alien invaders had reached its peak. For years, humanity had fought with everything they had, but now, they had something more: Elara. No longer the alien weapon that had been used against them, Elara was now a beacon of hope for Earth. The gravity manipulation device, a piece of technology once thought impossible, had made her stronger than any human before. Her powers were now superhuman, capable of reshaping the very fabric of gravity. And she was ready to use it against the alien fleet. The aliens had underestimated humanity at every turn. They had believed they were unstoppable, that Earth was just another insignificant planet to conquer. But the aliens had failed to realize one crucial thing: humanity had something they could never match: resilience, a will to fight, and an unbreakable spirit. As the alien ships continued to swarm Earth, a fierce space battle erupted in the skies above. The human fleet, now armed with the gravity manipulation device, charged forward into the chaos. Elara, leading the charge, was a force to be reckoned with. Her abilities allowed her to alter gravity fields, making the alien ships feel like they were caught in a cosmic web. One by one, the alien fleets were torn apart, their ships tossed like paper in a storm. Each blast of Elara's power sent ripples through space, distorting the flow of gravity, making the alien ships spin uncontrollably. The once imposing alien warships, built with advanced technology and superior weaponry, were now vulnerable. Their shields crackled under the strain of gravitational forces they could not comprehend, their weapons rendered useless as Elara's powers interfered with the very fundamentals of space itself. Captain Marcus Hayes and his team were in the heart of the battle, supporting Elara with all their might. The human fleet had grown stronger with the use of the new technology they had developed. They fought with an intensity born from years of oppression and suffering. Every soldier, every pilot, and every person on Earth knew that this fight wasn't just for survival, it was for their future, for their freedom. The battle was nothing short of a spectacle. High above Earth's atmosphere, the sky was alight with massive explosions and flashes of light. The alien ships, once imposing and invincible, were now being obliterated by the sheer force of humanity's determination. As human ships launched orbital strikes, massive waves of destruction surged across the alien fleet. Laser blasts sliced through space, creating brilliant streaks of light that illuminated the dark void. The soundless explosions echoed in the hearts of the humans watching from below, knowing that they were on the brink of something monumental. In the distance, a massive alien dreadnought appeared, its silhouette casting a dark shadow across the battlefield. It was the last of the alien flagship vessels, the final obstacle standing between humanity and their victory. If they didn't take it down, all their efforts would have been for nothing. The battle had reached its highest intensity, and the stakes had never been higher. As the dreadnought charged forward, its weapons aimed at Earth, Elara took a deep breath and focused. With a burst of energy, she stretched her hands toward the alien ship. The very fabric of space around the dreadnought began to bend, twisting the gravity fields in ways that no one thought possible. The dreadnought's engines struggled, unable to cope with the crushing pressure. In seconds, the once mighty ship was torn apart, its hull buckling under the immense strain of the manipulated gravity. The destruction of the alien dreadnought was a turning point in the battle. The remaining alien ships faltered, their coordination falling apart. Without their flagship to lead them, the alien forces began to retreat. Elara's power had broken their will to fight. It was a stunning display of humanity's ingenuity, resilience, and sheer force of determination. But the battle wasn't over yet. As the alien ships scrambled to escape, the human forces were relentless. They pursued the retreating enemy, striking down every ship in their path. The skies above Earth, once filled with alien invaders, were now filled with the wreckage of their ships. Humanity had taken control of the battle. They had fought back the invaders and, for the first time in years, had hoped that they might actually win. The final moments of the battle were chaotic. The alien forces, in disarray and facing complete annihilation, sent one last desperate wave of ships toward Earth. They had one final trick up their sleeves, an immense weapon capable of obliterating entire cities. But just as the weapon began to power up, Elara intervened once again. With a surge of energy, she manipulated the gravity around the weapon, causing it to implode in on itself. The weapon exploded in a blinding flash, taking the remaining alien ships with it. As the dust settled, the battlefield was eerily silent. The human forces looked out at the vast expanse of space, now empty except for the debris of the once mighty alien fleet. Earth had won. Against all odds, against the overwhelming power of the alien invaders, humanity had emerged victorious. The aftermath of the battle was bittersweet. While humanity had secured their freedom, the cost of the war had been immense. Cities lay in ruins, and many lives had been lost. But the greatest loss was the comrades who had fought alongside them, who had sacrificed everything for this moment. Bonner's sacrifice weighed heavily on Marcus's heart, but it was not in vain. The war had been won, and humanity had proven that they would never be defeated. Captain Marcus Hayes looked out across the battlefield, his eyes searching the skies for any sign of the alien forces. They were gone, but the memory of the battle, the sacrifices, and the resilience of humanity would stay with him forever. Elara stood by his side, her once muted powers now fully realized. She had become more than a weapon, she was a symbol of everything humanity had fought for. Her strength, both physical and emotional, had been the turning point in the war. As she looked at the remains of the alien fleet, a quiet sense of peace settled over her. She had been part of something greater than herself. And she had helped Earth claim its victory. But the story was far from over. The alien threat had been eliminated for now, but there were always new challenges ahead. Humanity would rebuild, stronger and more united than ever before. They had faced the impossible and come out on top, proving to the universe that no matter how strong the enemy, no matter how advanced the technology, the human spirit would always rise to the occasion. And with that, the last battle ended. But the fight for Earth's future, for the survival of humanity, would continue. The war might be over, but the story was just beginning. The universe had witnessed humanity's last stand, and it had learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate the power of determination, courage, and the heart of humankind. The final strike had been launched. After years of fierce fighting, Earth had taken its stand, and the alien empire that once dominated countless galaxies had been shattered. The war that seemed impossible for humanity to win had been brought to an end, and now, the universe knew the true strength of Earth's resolve. The enemy, who had been certain of their victory, had crumbled beneath the weight of humanity's determination and resilience. But victory, as always, came with a price. The battle had been won, but not without significant loss. Captain Marcus Hayes stood at the helm of Earth's fleet, his eyes scanning the sky above. The stars, which had once seemed so distant and mysterious, now felt so much closer. Yet, in the aftermath of the war, they felt colder, emptier. The cost of victory was written in the faces of his fallen comrades, the faces of the soldiers who would never return home. He could still hear the roar of the weapons, the screams of soldiers, and the sound of his heart breaking as he watched his friends fall one by one. Bonner's face, forever etched in his memory, was a constant reminder of what they had lost. Bonner had given his life, a sacrifice that had paved the way for Earth's triumph. But that sacrifice was not easy to accept. Marcus had seen too many good men and women fall during this war, and now, he was left with the painful weight of their loss. Earth had succeeded. The alien empire had collapsed, but it wasn't a time for celebration. It was a time for reflection and mourning. The soldiers who had fought alongside Marcus were more than just teammates, they were family. They had shared in the hardships of war, fought through battles that seemed endless, and had trusted each other with their lives. And now, their sacrifice had made Earth's victory possible. Elara stood by Marcus's side, her once quiet demeanor now filled with a strength that matched the magnitude of her powers. Her role in the war had been vital. The gravity manipulation device had turned the tide of the battle, but it was Elara's heart and determination that had truly made the difference. She had given humanity the tools to fight back, but she had also given them hope. Elara was more than just a weapon, she was the embodiment of humanity's resilience and its will to survive. Her presence now symbolized the future of Earth. She had become the beacon of hope for a world that had been broken but not defeated. With the alien forces gone, Earth was finally free to rebuild. But there was still much work to be done. The remnants of the alien empire had left their mark on Earth, and the scars of war were deep. The cities were in ruins, the infrastructure was shattered, and the population was grieving. Yet, amid the destruction, there was hope. Elara was not only the key to Earth's defense in the future, but she was also a symbol of humanity's ability to adapt and thrive. With her knowledge of advanced technologies, she helped to usher in a new era for Earth. The gravity manipulation device, along with other pieces of technology recovered from the alien invaders, would shape the planet's future. Humanity now had the means to defend itself from any threat that might arise in the galaxy. Captain Marcus stood tall as he watched the sun rise over a war-torn Earth. The sky was still filled with the remnants of the battle, the wreckage of the alien ships, the shattered debris floating through space. It was a stark reminder of what had been lost and what had been gained. The human fleet had done its part, but the war had taken more than they could ever repay. There was a moment of silence, one that seemed to stretch on forever. Marcus's thoughts turned to Bonner, his brave soldier who had given his life for this moment. Bonner's sacrifice would never be forgotten. The soldiers who had fallen alongside him had given their all, and their memory would live on in the hearts of those who remained. But it was not just their memory that would carry humanity forward. It was the spirit of those who fought, who refused to give up, even when the odds seemed impossible. The memorial for the fallen soldiers was held in the heart of Earth's new capital. It was a solemn occasion, one that brought people from all corners of the world together. The walls were adorned with the names of the brave men and women who had lost their lives, including Bonner, who had become a symbol of courage and sacrifice. As the names were read aloud, Marcus felt a lump in his throat. He had known these people, fought beside them, and had witnessed their deaths firsthand. But he also knew that their sacrifice had not been in vain. Earth had won, and it was a victory for every soldier who had fought in the trenches, every pilot who had flown into the heart of battle, and every person who had believed in the impossible. The ceremony was simple, yet powerful. The families of the fallen soldiers stood proudly, knowing their loved ones had given everything for a better future. There were no grand speeches, no promises of revenge, just quiet reflection on the lives that had been lost and the future that awaited them all. After the ceremony, Marcus found himself alone, standing in front of the memorial. The weight of the victory was still heavy on his shoulders, but there was a sense of peace that he hadn't felt before. Earth had come through the storm, and though it had paid a terrible price, the world was still standing. Humanity had been tested in ways no one had imagined, but they had endured. Elara joined him, her quiet strength a source of comfort. She didn't speak, but her presence was enough. Together, they stood there for a long while, looking out over the ruins and the rebuilding world. The work ahead would be difficult, but it was not impossible. Earth had overcome the greatest threat it had ever known, and now, it would rebuild and rise stronger than before. As they looked up at the stars, Marcus felt a sense of optimism. The universe had learned a valuable lesson that day: never underestimate humanity. Earth had faced its darkest hour and emerged victorious, proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit could not be broken. With Elara by his side, Marcus knew that humanity's future was secure. Together, they would lead Earth into a new era, one where they would stand ready to defend their world against any threat, no matter where it came from. And as the final piece of the alien empire collapsed, humanity's future finally began to take shape. The journey had been long, and the road ahead would be challenging, but Earth had made it. The war was over. The reckoning had come. And humanity had prevailed.